Hello and welcome, Superimisis, the story of the Burgher and the Pauper. So, B'ezrat Hashem, without further ado, let's get to the text and see what we can dig out of there. So, we said, all the kings came to woo her, but at the end, she all gave him the same answer. The seven waters, he didn't go through the seven waters. And we said that these we're all talking about tzaddikim, like really big tzaddikim that do a lot of good things and they're not capable. They didn't go through the seven waters, which means they're not capable of bringing the light to the people who are very, very low. This they're not able to do. As long as you are, within a certain boundary, from here to here, this being, this being, somebody who's, loosely connected, whatever it is. But as long as you are between that and that, they can help you. But there's a limit to what they can do. There's a limit to what they can do. She told them that the daughter of the emperor, who is the Shechina, is telling them, that she likes them. She has a noah from the work with Kedusha that they do. We spoke about it, at great lengths, about the fact that Kanan Hara, the many tzaddikim in Am Yisrael, and but they're not the one that the Shekhinah is looking for. So, meanwhile, the Burgher's son remained there in that same place. And he made himself a place to live, and he dwelled there. He was also able to play music. He was skilled in the art of lyrics, and he selected wood out of which musical instruments could be made, and he made himself instruments out of the veins of animals. He made the strings, and thus he was able to play to himself, and he would take the note that he had, the emperor's daughter sent him while he was in prison, and he would sing and play his instruments. And he would remember all that happened to him, how his father had been the Burgher and so forth, and how he'd been cast away. And he went and he took the note and made a mark on a tree. And there inside the tree, he hollowed out a place and he hid the note. And after he'd been there a while, one day, there was a great storm. It blew down all the trees of that place, and he could not recognize the tree where he hid the note. As long as the trees were standing, he could recognize the sign. But now that the trees had fallen, this tree was mixed up among many other trees. He had no way of recognizing that particular tree. It was impossible for him to split them all and find, open to find the note. And since there were so many trees, this caused him to weep and grieve very much, and realized that if he stayed there, he would definitely go mad because he had such great anguish. He decided that he must move on, no matter what will happen to him. Leave he must. As we said, if he did not, he would be in danger because of his deep anguish. Put some meat and fruit in the sack, and he went in no specific direction. And he made himself signs making the place which he left. And he continued until he reached a settlement. So far, we have read the last time. What land is this? He asked. They replied, and he asked if they had heard of the world emperor, and they said yes. And he asked if they have heard about his daughter, the great beautiful, the big beauty. And they said yes, but it's impossible to marry her because she would not have anyone. As we said, so he came to a decision in light of the fact that it would be impossible for him to travel there. So he went to the king of that land and poured out his heart to him. And he told him that he was the true bridegroom. And because of him, she would not marry anyone else. And since it was impossible for him to go there, he would give the king all the signs that he has. That is, the 7 waters that she had described. And he asked that the king go there and make an engagement with her. And the king should pay him for this information. The king realized that he was telling the truth, since it would be impossible to make up a story like this. The idea pleased him. However, he decided that he wanted to bring the princess back with him, but the young man would be there still, so it would not turn out so well. Well, should he kill him? He didn't have the heart to do so. Why should he be killed for doing him a favor? Therefore, he decided to exile the Burgher's son 200 miles away. The son was very upset by this. Since he had been exiled for doing the king a favor. So he went to another king and told him the story. Her son, and so forth. No. He told him the whole story and he should make haste to marry her. And he related all the signs to the second king and also added additional signs. He told the king that he should make haste and set out immediately so he could overtake the first king in order to get there first. But even if he does not get there first, he still had more, one more sign more than the first one. And the second king had the same thought as the first. It'll be embarrassed. He shouldn't leave him there. So he exiled him for 200 miles more. And again, he was very upset. So he went another time to the third king, told him the whole story with all the others. And to the third one, he gave him more signs, very good signs. So the first king immediately sent out on a journey, and he came to the place of the emperor's beautiful daughter, and he composed the lyrics skillfully, including all the places that they had served as witnesses, 7 types of waters, which are the main signs. They were looking the prospective groom. However, the rules of lyrics led him to speak of the places in different order, and the story really happened, since this was how it came out according to the method of lyrics. He came to the place set aside for courting her and recited the lyrics. When the emperor's daughter heard the mention of these places, she was very surprised. She was positive that he was her destined groom. However, she still had some uncertainty since the places were not in the correct order. But she thought that perhaps he had, had to change the order because of the artistry of the poem. So she made up her mind that he must be the one. And she wrote him that she considered herself engaged to him. There was great joy and tumultuous excitement because the great beauty had finally found a match. Plans were made for the wedding. In the meantime, there arrived another king who gave him more sign. And the other one, he went and he told she already engaged to marry him. He said he paid no heed. He said he still had something to tell her that would affect the situation. And he got to her and recited the poem, now placing all the places in order, in correct order, and adding additional sign. So how did the first one know all this? She asked. If you could tell now, if you should tell the truth that the young man told the first one, certainly it wouldn't be good for him. So he didn't know. So she found it very puzzling and she was very bewildered. Since the first one also recited all the places, how could people know these signs? Still, it seemed logical that the second king was her destined one, since she saw he had given her the signs in order, an additional sign. It was possible that the first one mentioned these places merely because of the art of composing the poem, wrote them to mind. Meantime, she decided to do nothing. That is, she decided not to do anything. And remained passive, refused to enter into marriage with anyone. And the young man, that's the Burgher's son, became very upset. And he went to the third king and told him the whole thing. He gave him even more signs, more compelling signs. And he poured his whole heart even more, telling him that he had a note, all these people were drawn. And he told the king how to draw all these places on a piece of paper and bring it to her. The third king in exile. And this third king exiled the young man 200 miles further. And he also hastened there and so forth and so on. And again, when he got there, they told him the same thing. They were already there. He said he will try anyway. And the king arrived with his estate, recited the poem, very clear signs. Then he showed her the note, all the places. She was in shock. She could not do anything because she thought he was the first one. The first one was the one. Then the same thing about the second one. Therefore, she said she's not going to believe anything until someone brought her own original note himself. Meantime, the young man thought, how many times is he going to be sent away? So he therefore made up his mind that he would go there himself. Perhaps he would accomplish something. So he traveled until he arrived there. And then he had something to say that would definitely change the situation. And he came, recited the lyrics, revealed even more signs, very compelling signs. He told her how they're going to get to school together, other similar signs. So everything, how it had been sent to other kings, how he had hidden the note in the tree and everything else that happened to him. But she paid no heed to this. Since the first three kings are also given her some excuses for not having the note. And to recognize them was clearly not possible since a long time was gone. She refused to pay heed to all the signs until he actually wrote the original note written in her own handwriting. So since she was already, she thought the first ones were the one. And we'll stop here. What we see here, obviously, all we know is only remozim, hints, allegories to different principles that we know to be true. So one of them is, of course, that he realized, him being the Bechina of Mashiach, realized that since it was impossible for him to come himself, at least give others the opportunity to ascend B'Kedusha and achieve things B'Kedusha. The Rabbeinu said that it is okay to say things that he said and not mention that it came from him. Because if people, in case people would say, it's from Rabbi Nachman, so they'll reject it. It says you can tell it, without mentioning my name. So it's in books. Because he said that a person shows his pure intentions by saying, if I don't make it, at least let somebody else make it. If I cannot serve Hashem's Baruch properly, at least let somebody else serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu a little bit more. There is seemingly, obviously the whole thing is destiny to be the way it was. And this entire story is the story of the Geula and the coming of Mashiach. And in this particular case, the Rebbe actually tells the Maisa to the end, until the coming of Mashiach, which in the story of the Lost Princess he does not. There seems to be almost like a lull in the action, as it were. The various kings trying to be mishtadach with, make a shidduch with the daughter of the emperor, with the Shechina. What happens to him? He's sitting in a good place. He's learning. He's davening. He's learning Torah. He lives well. He's prosperous. He has food, meat, fish, fruits. And as we said, at a certain point in time, a certain complacency settles in. He takes the ksav, in other words, the Torah, the Sfarim, and he puts it in the tree, puts it in the Sfarim cabinet. Meaning, I'm a frum Jew, and everything's okay, so what's the big deal if I'm gonna, I don't know, watch a game or a movie or I don't know. What's gonna happen? What's the big deal? What's the big deal if I speak to women? I'm not at an age, that this will lead to anything. It's a big deal, get really tasty food, something gourmet, what's the big deal? The Rebbe says that sometimes when a Jew gets complacent, that something tumadik happens to him. He falters, he fails on a certain this wakes him up. This wakes him up to the fact that I got to do something. And the thing is that when a Kadosh Baruch Hu wakes you up, and it happens with a storm wind, and you get all discombobulated, and you don't know what to do. You can't stay where you are because this is not leading anywhere. So the best thing that you could do is go ahead and give it to someone else. Tell someone else. At least let someone else be safe. Let someone else. Okay. So even if it's a done thing that you will not succeed, chas v'chalila, and whatever. It's not the end of the world. What happens is that the destiny is that you can't switch. You can't give it up. You are the bridegroom of your piece of Shechina. You are in this world in order to accomplish that which you need to accomplish. So the reaction of these other kings is actually to obliterate the truth. There's certain simonim. What is this Indian of, sending him 200 parsoas away? 200 parsoas away, Chazal measures, a parsa is like 1,200 kilometers. So 200 parsoas means 12,000 kilometers altogether. It's like, the other side of the world, virtually. In other words, that nobody should know from the tzaddik hands. Now, this is something that has been taking place when tzaddikim either by mistake or by misguided good intentions actually cover up the tzaddik emes. This happened with Yosef Tzaddik and his brothers. This happened with Shaul HaMelech and David HaMelech. And for a very long time, it happened with Rabbeinu as well. The profusion of people that are the car of people to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hashem. You have Chabad, and you have Or Sameach, and you have Eshatera, and you have, Baruch Hashem, you have many people that are Kulam Tovim, of Elbaz, and everybody is Kulam Tovim, Kulam Tovim. And as we said, the Shekhinah loves all of them. And Mashiach will love all of them. Father. But what they do is they close off the light of Mashiach, the light of the true tzaddik. The light of the true tzaddik is actually in that note that is in the tree. This is a personal contract of engagement between the Shekhinah and the Mashiach. It's the light of the tzaddik himself. And people can fall off. People can fall off the wagon. People pass difficult times in their lives. Sometimes it's age-wise, people go through different ages, as we know. Sometimes, it's all kind of personal stories that people bring to the table. It takes a long time for people to take a look back and realize that everything that happened to them was for the good. It could be, challenges, with children, with relatives. And people can fall off the wagon. And it creates an uncertainty, and that uncertainty is actually the seed of the Geula. When all these kings that covered up the fact that they got the information from the true tzaddik, the fact that each one came with more information, made it obvious to the Shekhinah they were all liars. There was a lot of truth in what they were saying, but the main Nakuda was a Nakuda of Sheker. There was a lie behind it. She decided not to do anything. And the incredible breakage that happens is when the true tzaddik himself comes, because of the fact that everything happened with the storm and everything. She doesn't believe him anymore. There seems to be a rift that cannot possibly be, be amended. This calls, as we will see in Mitzvah Hashem next week, that is called, because she did not believe him, things happened that instead of him coming to her, she has to come to him. But the main Nakuda is something which Rav Kook Zichrono Livracha said many years ago. It was very controversial at the time, and if you don't know from Rabbeinu, it's extremely controversial. But only Rabbeinu sort of like the kasha settles down. And we spoke about it a few times, but it's a good idea to repeat it. It says that when Adam and Chava were first created, they created one. It was one body that had a male side and a female side. And that means that there was no problem. The Baruch Hu does not create anything which is not 100%, But that meant that the man and his wife did not have a choice. It's like you don't have a choice, with your right arm or your left arm. These are the arms that you have. So the Baruch Hu split them and brought the woman to the man. And the man chose her at that point. So they became one, but now, as opposed to becoming one, to being one per definition, as they were when they were created, now they are one because of choice. This world was created for choice. So Rav Kook said that Am Yisrael, we know that Am Yisrael is being decimated throughout the ages. And there's a strong strain that keeps on going on and going on. Ultimately, he says, there has to be, but the reason why the frum are still frum is because it's just a continuation from their parents. This is akin to situation of Adam and Chava being one, being created one. He said there will have to be a separation, whereas a great part of Am Yisrael will leave Yiddishkeit and then we'll turn around and come back. So the Yiddishkeit is not going to be a Yiddishkeit by inheritance, by default, but it'll be Yiddishkeit from choice. This represents who we are. This represents where we come from. In order for this to happen, there has to be a disconnect. So many of Rabeinu's stories visit this theme of connection and disconnection, and connection and disconnection, and connection and disconnection. Nosson says in Ilchas Mincha, Lacha Zayin, that there is a realm which is above the primordial tzimtzum, which is called Olam HaMalbush. It's called the realm of the cloak. This is where the tzimtzum was created initially. The Kadosh Baruch Hu shone a light and then took the light back, leaving an imprint. And then another shone and then take it back. Then shone and then I took it back. And each time the imprint, like a sea coming to the shore and going back, leaving an imprint. And this is the light that ultimately, this kind of process is the process that ultimately enabled the creation of the vacant space. This entire process takes place before the beginning of its time. This process continues to our day with each and every one of us. Kadosh Baruch Hu shines a light into our life, and he takes it back. Certain days are better days. Certain days are harder days. Certain days are flooded with shefa, and certain days we feel the lack. This is all these incredible tzimtzumim, this expansion of the light and its tzimtzumim. So in order to make, first of all, for each and every one of us, of course, the kind of environment that he or she needs in order to reach their destiny. But it's the same process that happens with Am Yisrael. Same process that goes, it comes and it goes, and it comes and it goes, and we make headway and we go take a step backwards. It's all Mechuv and Go from Kadosh Baruch Hu. And then it seems we get to a point there, everything becomes, discombobulated. You can't believe anybody anymore. And there's a case of breakage, as we will see. But this is the breakage that leads to the ultimate Yeshua. What does it mean to us? What it means to us is I do what I can. I wake up in the morning, whenever I wake up, and I do whatever it is that I can do. And I remind myself, Baruch Hashem, I could be the owner of Studio 51 or 47, whatever it was called. This club in Manhattan. I could, Chas v'Chalila, be owning a treif restaurant feeding Jews non-kosher food. A lot of different things, and Baruch Hashem are none of these. Baruch Hashem. I'm not saying that I'm, Mr. Wonderful, but nevertheless, Baruch Hashem, I want to daven, I want to get closer to Kodesh Baruch Hu, I want to try to do this, I'm trying to learn, with my friends, I try to, do whatever it is they can, wish for good stuff. I do whatever it is that I need to do. And I believe Emunah Shlema, that everything that happens to me on a daily basis, even the days that I feel, oh man, I'm really, really botching this up. Don't worry about it. You have absolutely no idea when you're being good and when you're not being good. What Kodesh Baruch Hu wants from you. The only thing that you have in your hands is just the choice to continue and do whatever it is that you can. As we said on Motzei Shabbos, just sigh and groan and moan in a wish to connect to the tzaddik, to connect to the notes, which is the Ruach HaKodesh of the tzaddik, to connect to the Torah, to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no matter where I am. What's going to be, it's not my worry. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's worry. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what else. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do what he wants. I'll try the best I can, and the most important thing is to be b'simcha, literally be b'simcha. Find yourself good things about yourself that you do, and be b'simcha. Because, b'simcha, things start going downhill, and then people go crazy. No. Baruch Hashem. With Rabbeinu. Rosh Hashanah is coming, Mitzvah Hashem. Hashem should help us. He'll be there, Mitzvah Hashem, with Rabbeinu. Each one the way he can. And everything's good. Everything is good. It's all leading inexorably to Biach Mashiach Tzidkenu and Bina V'Samikdash Mimra B'Yameinu Amen B'Zat Hashem. So, B'Zat Hashem, we will, learn again on Wednesday. And Likutei Moharan then Thursday, Mitzvah Hashem in Breslov.